Yeah, so I wanted to do an update video. I'm 1.7 years into this low vitamin A diet, and I just want to go over the pros and cons that I have noticed about this way of eating. So to start, I just want to go into the initial conditions real quick. So how I ended up going on the low vitamin A diet was I was very desperate. Probably like most people who try this way of eating, I came from a very desperate situation in terms of my health. Very bad shortness of breath, very bad heart arrhythmias, incredibly bad anxiety, crippling anxiety actually. Couldn't do anything really, pacing around all the time. And yeah, I basically just exhausted all my resources, tried everything, bought a lot of different supplements, tried to research into different theories of like what was occurring, and I could never really get results in anything I was doing. And I even went vegetarian for a year, tried to drop my fat moderately low. That actually seemed to help me quite a lot, but not as much as I would like have it to help me. I also, that was the thing that helped me the most before the low vitamin A, was just dropping my fat intake. But I still had a lot of the shortness of breath and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of it was like more exertion related kind of stuff, more stress related, and that would increase my issues. But I just felt like something was deeply wrong with me. And then in January of 2024, I knew a lot about like the low vitamin A thing already because I was on the Repeat forum for quite a while, and I was like, you know what, I've tried every other thing that I could possibly have tried. Why don't I just give this a go? I'm still like having the carbohydrates in, so I got nothing left to lose in a sense. I've tried everything, may as well try this. So in January of 2024, I think it was like late January, I think, I tried to do the low vitamin A thing. So I started buying white grapes. I followed this like plan that Charlie from the Repeat forum put to everyone. So I started eating white grapes, started eating like these wheat flatbreads. I started eating, I first kept like canned mussels in, but I immediately started like the low vitamin A side of it. So I cut out most high vitamin A foods, like butter. I was having very sour amounts of it at the beginning, like a tablespoon max, and then I eventually cut that out very quickly. And what I was eating for most of that time period was like flatbreads, white grapes, canned mussels, and I think that might have been it actually for that part. And then what I did after that was I switched the canned mussels for very lean beef mince, so around 47%, which I'm still consuming to this day. And I noticed at first my issues got a lot worse when I added that in. That's the other thing, like for the first couple of weeks when I started the low vitamin A diet, I was having these really weird issues where I'd be sick like 4 times a week, kind of. It would be like cyclically, and it wasn't like a normal sickness. It was like it wouldn't like go further than like a sore throat and it would go away, and every time that would occur, all my issues would get so much worse. My shortness of breath, my heart arrhythmias, everything. And all the time when it cleared up, I felt just a little bit better. So it was like this going up every time that was occurring. It was very strange. I've never had that happen to me ever in my life. And it's very interesting. And I only noticed that it would occur if I kept my vitamin A at the beginning to 0. If I added like eggs in, it would just stop. and I wouldn't have that reaction. Well, I don't even know what it was, detox, whatever the fuck. I'm really not sure, but that was very interesting, and yeah, I just started to feel a little bit better as time went on, and by the end of 2024, I was able to go on planes, like travel, like on a plane, without being medicated. And that is like very big for me, because for a lot of my life, I have had to really like try calm myself down when going on a plane. I've always had like the sweaty hands and stuff while going on a plane, and this time around I was able to go on the plane with no medication whatsoever, and it was astounding to me. And then also I was also able to go to like the big cities here in Denmark without any medication either. So that was also very interesting. The other thing that occurred was I had 2 autoimmune diseases, Raynaud's and erythromelalgia, which is a condition where your blood vessels in your extremities, they basically kind of vasodilate or vasoconstrict too much. And it's something related to like the nervous system, maybe dysregulation in that area. But the only thing that really helped me with that was the carnivore diet. Everything else I tried made it the same, if not worse. But this diet, yeah, let's just say I don't have them anymore, which is kind of crazy to me. The only times that I have my autoimmune conditions is if I severely irritate my gut. So if I like bloat myself to high heaven with certain foods, or if I'm in like an extremely hot environment, it can sometimes trigger it. But I'd say it's around 85 to 95% gone, which is insane. I'm not really sure if it's a vitamin A or not, but man, it was bad like 2 years ago. It was every single day, and now I don't even wake up with it most of the time. Like, it just seems to have vanished, which is very interesting. Also, I was also monitoring my blood work, and I noticed that my inflammatory markers, specifically my C-reactive protein, it was always hovering around 4.0 for a lot of the time. And the doctors were always like, oh, well, you know, it's a normal range apparently, so you don't need to worry about it. And as soon as I went on this diet, like, I was always complaining about that to them, because I was like, look at my face, it looks so inflamed. And back then my face was like very like bloated looking and like kind of puffy, and I was like, this is inflammation going on. And also with the autoimmune disease, I was like, there's no chance that I'm inflammation free right now. So yeah, that was happening. And when I did this low vitamin A diet, my C-reactive protein went from 4.0 down to 0.6. So it was an 85% absolute reduction rate in my, well, is that absolute? Is that relative? I think it's it's relative, because the absolute is like what? It's like 3.4 absolute reduction points, I guess. But like the relative percentage decrease was 85%. So I found that very interesting. And also I got follow-up blood work, and because I was like, oh, maybe it's just a stint, one-off stint, you know, like a one-off thing. So I was like, a couple of months later, let's get some more blood work, and yeah, 0.6 still. So, and I know that it is the case because my face has literally shrank. It's about the size as it was when I was like 19 or something. And I always thought it was like aging or something, and my face was like just getting large, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm just getting older, like starting to look like an old man or whatever, with like some flame looking face, like it must be, you know, just normal aging. And then I go on this low vitamin diet and it just goes away, and that's like, I'm like, wow. So that's very interesting. But there's also been a lot of downsides of this diet as well that I want to get into. And the main issue that I've noticed is hypothyroid symptoms. And the reason why I say this is because I'm a person who comes from something like the carnivore diet, for example, and like keto and stuff like that. And on those diets, I actually experienced hypothyroid symptoms like thinning of the eyebrows, like hair loss, kind of not really thinner skin, maybe because I was eating so high fat. I think I think the low fat of this is to blame for the thin skin, but I was eating so high fat with the carnivore diet and the keto diet, my skin actually got thicker. It's very interesting. But yeah, like no motivation to do anything, just very like lethargic and like not interested in like anything that I used to be interested in. Like, well, I'm interested in a lot of animation usually, and I just couldn't get myself to do any of it. Well, the thing is, with this low vitamin A diet, I've noticed that a lot of those things have come back, including like the eyebrow thinness and thinner hair overall, thin skin, no motivation to do anything, like no energy either, like very bad energy levels. Like I can kind of feel it. Also, like for a lot of the time, just feeling like a shell of my former self, like not very like there's nothing really going on in my brain. Like it feels like I feel like someone slowed everything down in my brain. Like it just seems like very bad hypothyroidism in my opinion. And I had the exact same thing on carnivore. And just like the time just seems to be speeding up. And I know people are like, oh, you're in your early 20s. It's like, that's normal. It's like, no, like it feels more extreme. Like it feels like it's like in the day-to-day sense of like time speeding up. Like it's not just like an overall sense. It's like, oh wow, it's already July. It's like that's normal. But like what I'm referring to is like where you think like 1 hour passed, but actually 5 hours passed or something crazy like that. And that's what's been happening to me, where my time sense will just be completely off. And also like the way that I move is like it's not as fast, and I'm struggling for more words than I normally would be struggling for, like, based on my previous self before going on this low vitamin A diet. And that's the other thing. I got my thyroid markers done as well, and my TSH jumped from like 0.5 to like 1.8. So it's more than doubled basically. And oh Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Basically, I think that's an issue because the way that other doctors were communicating with me in that time sense of like, I don't know, telling me that my thyroid was okay. It turns out that if you do the research, there were many studies that I've seen that shows that a lot of thyroid markers are actually not reliable at all. And it's actually more so related to like the resting heart rate and also like the basal temperature kind of thing. And I noticed that both of those things have just dramatically decreased. And this is like the crux of the issue that I keep coming back to, which is like, and I don't know why, but I feel like I'm just such a fucking genius for like thinking about this. And I know that sounds kind of like fucked to say, but I seriously think that like I must be fucked in the head or something to even like come to this conclusion, because I've never seen it anywhere in the community at all. And what I think has happened is like this, right? So I think there's a possibility that maybe vitamin A isn't toxic at all, and that it's just a quick fix for very personalized health problems that people are going through, where people are damaged in very specific ways due to their genetics and environment coercing in some kind of very complex way. So they'll have some kind of downstream metabolic pathway problem that is highly tailored to themselves and no one else. And I think that's where most of these people are coming from in this low vitamin A sphere. And what I actually think is occurring is, I think when you go on a low vitamin A diet, it just makes you way more hypermetabolic. And the reason why I say that is because you're reducing vitamin A, which gets transformed into retinoic acid, which is responsible for regulating thyroid hormones in the body, right? Like, in terms of making sure your thyroid is functioning correctly, you're getting enough T3. Retinoic acid is incredibly important for that, right? And I know there's like a lot of discourse online, but it's so apparent to me that that's the case. I mean, whenever, in the evenings, I'm so just done. I'm done. Like, I have no energy to do anything. And what happens is, like, I get these under eye shadows, like really bad, like this hollowness in my eyes. And I had that sort of in carnivore, and it's so related, in my opinion, to hypermetabolism, because I had that exact thing on carnivore. But now it's like, with the thin skin from the low fat approach that I'm doing on this low vitamin A diet, it's made it even worse. And that is, I've never had that issue ever in my life, and I've only had it on this kind of diet. And I have a strange feeling that all my issues got better just because I'm on a hypermetabolic approach. Because the way that I see it, right, and this is where I go back to, holy shit, maybe I'm a genius or something, is because when you slow down the system, you use less oxygen per period of time that you're alive, because you are like, just slower overall. It's like you're chronically at rest, like you need less oxygen versus running, right? It's exactly like that. There's been studies that show that vitamin A deficient mice, for example, have a heart contractile force 25% reduced, for example. The contractile force of the heart has been reduced. Resting heart rate, there's a lot of data of that where that also gets reduced. And because of all that, and just the slowing down of every process in the body, including your brain, not only does it explain all my negative symptoms, but it also explains all my positive symptoms too, which is what people just don't understand. It's like, okay, all your autoimmune diseases got reversed, your shortness of breath went away, your heart arrhythmias went away, holy shit, you're getting better. It's like, no, what if the oxygenation of cells has just gotten better? Because the cells don't require as much oxygen because they've lowered their functioning, but at the same time they can function better because there's more oxygen available for them, so they're not stressed out anymore. So basically every single dysfunction in your physiology auto-corrects itself, right? And I just don't see anyone talking about that, and it's it's super interesting to me, because I think it makes so much sense. And a lot of low vitamin A people that I've talked to on X just immediately block me whenever I talk about this kind of stuff. And it's very unscientific to just blame it on vitamin A, because you're changing so many other things. And I just added in more fat the other day and all my issues came back. And it just makes me question, holy shit. That's the other thing, low fat, that's another thing to this equation. When you consume fat, it wastes more oxygen. I think it's 23 atoms of oxygen compared to only 6 for carbohydrate, right? So that's another factor in all of this. What if you're just doing everything you can possibly do to create a rich oxygenated environment, and then everything just goes away, all your issues, because it's related to cellular thrivability in a sense. How well your cells can actually survive is what actually characterizes how healthy you are. And I keep coming back to this. I honestly believe to the depths of my core. Like, this term health has been spun around so many times, and it just seems like people don't understand exactly anything about what it actually means to be healthy. I think it's very simple what health actually means. I think in order to define true health, you need to look at the metabolic rate if it's high. And not only that, but if the inflammation is low. Because what that tells you is if the cellular physiology is running quite fast and the inflammation is quite low, the only thing it could possibly mean is that you have excellent cellular physiology. Whereas if your metabolic rate is decreased and your inflammation is low, it could very well be the case that if you increase it, your inflammation will increase. Which is like, it's like revving up an engine that has an issue. Like, you wouldn't want to rev it up, so you decrease it, and then it's like, oh look, I fixed the engine. No, you didn't at all. You just decreased like the speed of it, right? So if you want really good health, you need to find a way to like increase your metabolic rate and have your inflammation very low. And the thing with blood work as well is like, it's not individualized. You have to like do your own experimentation to see what your min and max values are for everything. And I know personally for mine, my min value for my CRP is 0.6 because it's how I'm feeling, it's what I'm getting now, and all my issues have basically disappeared. So 0.6 is like is the goal that I have to reach for the C-reactive protein, basically. So if I increase my metabolic rate and I'm able to like fix some cellular dysfunction in my metabolism or something that is able to decrease my C-reactive protein to 0.6, I wouldn't be surprised if I fixed all my issues and didn't get any negative ones either. Because as soon as you get negative symptoms, you know you haven't done anything but put a band-aid on something or diverted it to something else, right? So that's all I just wanted to say. It's a bit of a rant, but yeah, 1.7 years in. Yeah, overall it's kind of worth it in terms of not feeling anxious all the time, but also at the same time it's like, you know, I'm dealing with a lot of negative issues. I wish I had a lot more energy. It feels like I can't have both worlds at the same time, which is kind of ridiculous to me because you know, I'm in my early 20s and I shouldn't be this sick. But yeah, that's just it. Thanks for watching. Bye.